Welcome to Slow Night Ancient Tales, where forgotten legends come alive in the quiet of the night. Tonight, we open the fourth tale of the Geumo Sinhwa, the record of the southern flaming continent. This is a mysterious story of an upright scholar who did not believe in ghosts or the afterlife. One quiet night, as he fell into a deep slumber over his books, his soul traveled to the majestic underworld. There, he met the king of the afterlife. But instead of fear, he faced the king with wisdom, engaging in a profound and quiet conversation about life, justice, and the secrets of the universe. Tonight, sit by the warm, flickering fire in the scholar's study. Let his profound and majestic dream calm your racing thoughts and guide you into a deep, peaceful rest. To protect your sleep, the screen will slowly fade to black as our journey begins. Now, close your eyes and let us wander into the grand and mysterious world beyond life. Baksang was an upright scholar who believed neither in ghosts nor the afterlife. One quiet night, he fell into a deep sleep at his desk, and the place he arrived at was none other than the afterlife ruled by King Yamra. However, that place was not a terrifying hell, but a deep and magnificent philosophical space discussing life, death, and the principles of the universe. Tonight, in the scholar's room where he flips through old books, sitting by the crackling brazier, let's go on a deep and distant dream journey crossing the present world and the underworld. Please let go of all the complicated thoughts tangled up during the day. For your deep and peaceful sleep, as the story begins, the screen will slowly dim so as not to dazzle your eyes. Now, comfortably close your eyes and follow the scholar's bizarre dream path that begins with the sound of a firewood fire. A scholar named Baksang lived in the land of Gyeongju. He had deep academic knowledge and a very upright character, so he never tolerated anything that went against the principles of the world. In particular, he considered things like ghosts, the afterlife, and the Buddhist theory of reincarnation to be absurd lies that deceive people. He usually wrote essays criticizing monsters, ghosts, and heretical beliefs to firmly establish his own will. Although he had repeatedly failed the state examination and could not unfold his ambitions, the upright spirit of a scholar always flowed in his heart. It was a quiet and deep night. Baksang was sitting alone in his study, leafing through an old book. Inside the room, only a small, crackling brazier kindly warmed up the cold night air. As loneliness and deep fatigue about a world that did not recognize his talents rushed in, Baksang ended up resting his head on his book and fell into a deep sleep at his desk. How deep of a sleep had he fallen into? When Baksang suddenly raised his head, he found himself standing on a bizarre path leading to an unfamiliar and distant island floating in the middle of the sea. That place was not the human world, but the magnificent underworld where the souls of the dead reside, exactly Namyombuju. At that time, an underworld messenger with a huge body and a scary face approached and bowed politely toward Baksang. King Yomra has heard well of your upright name, Sir Scholar, and has ordered me to bring you for a moment. Please, follow me. If it had been an ordinary person, they would have been terrified and collapsed, but Baksang was originally an upright scholar who did not believe in ghosts. Without any sign of fear, he neatly adjusted his collar and walked with a resolute step behind the messenger to the magnificent palace of the underworld. Upon crossing the threshold of the palace, King Yomra was sitting on a grand and massive throne with a dignified appearance. Seeing Baksang, the great king smiled gently, rose from his seat, and welcomed him. King Yomra gladly welcomed Baksang, who had entered the palace, sat him in a seat of honor, and opened his mouth with a gentle and elegant voice. I have long admired your upright scholarly spirit and righteous learning, so I have invited you for a moment this night, crossing the boundary between the living and the dead. Baksang paid his respects resolutely without any sign of fear, and began to ask the questions he had pondered and doubted so many times in the living world. Great King, the foolish people of the living world blindly believe in the Buddhist theory of reincarnation, saying that when a person dies, they are reborn as a beast or fall into hell. Do heaven and hell truly exist in this universe? The great king smiled quietly and replied, The principle of the world is originally just the harmony of yin and yang. If there is day, there is night, and if there is the bright world of the living, there is the dark world of the dead. However, heaven and hell do not physically exist high, up in the sky or deep underground. It is exactly like the principle created by good and evil in a person's heart. Those who lived righteously without losing their good hearts in the living world stay in peaceful and clear energy even after death, while those steeped in greed and evil deeds have their own murky hearts bind them, creating the burning pain of hell. Baksang asked again, "Then what on earth are the ghosts that people of the world fear so much? Is it true that those who died unjustly become vengeful spirits and wander the living world to harm people?" King Yomra's heavy and deep voice echoed softly through the empty palace. When the energy of the universe gathers, it becomes life and is born, and when that energy scatters, it becomes death. When a person dies and their energy scatters clearly and righteously, they quietly return to the embrace of nature, but humans simply call it a ghost when murky energies that failed to scatter due to deep grudges and vain greed linger in the air for a while. However, that too is not eternal. So eventually, as time passes, it is like morning fog that naturally scatters according to the flow of the great principle. The great king's explanation was not a superstition that ensnares people in fear, but like the teaching of a true scholar discussing the natural order and morality of the world. His words were as unhindered and logical as clear water flowing. Baksang was deeply impressed by King Yomra's orderly and profound wisdom. He finally nodded quietly, and the long-held doubts and dissatisfaction with the world he had harbored in his heart all his life melted away like snow. King Yomra was greatly pleased with the questions and answers with Baksang that continued all night, and rose from his seat. "Your learning is truly righteous, and your heart is straight and upright without a single point of bias. Quite a long time has passed since I ruled this Namyonbaju, and I was just about to lay down this heavy position and return to the heavens. The only one to take my place is a selfless and upright scholar like you, so please inherit the throne of this underworld in the future." Baksang was surprised by the great king's unexpected proposal, but soon adjusted his collar and bowed deeply to accept the heavy responsibility. "Now, your remaining lifespan in the living world is short, so go back for a while, organize your remaining ties, and come back." As the great king waved his hand with a gentle smile, the messenger who had guided Baksang approached again and led him. The moment Baksang misstepped while stepping out of the magnificent palace gate of the underworld, the distant boundary of the dream collapsed, and he suddenly opened his eyes. Coming to his senses, he was still lying face down at his desk in the quiet study. Inside the room, the small crackling brazier had already turned into a lump of red charcoal, leaving only warm heat, and faint dawn was breaking outside the window. Baksang deeply realized that what he experienced was not a mere empty dream. He was not afraid or sad at all. Rather, he had a peaceful and clear face unique to one who had realized the principles of the world. After that day, Baksang firmly locked his door with the excuse of illness and quietly began to organize his surroundings. And one day, a few months later, he gathered his family, smiled quietly, and left a will. "Although I could not unfold my ambitions in this world, I am now leaving to become the true master of the underworld, so please do not be too sad about my death." With those words, Baksang passed away. His face was boundlessly peaceful, like someone who had fallen into a deep, sweet sleep. It is said that in later years, people believed that because Baksang lived uprightly and righteously all his life, he was called by King Yomra to become a great king, ruling the world of the dead. And they honored his upright life for a long time.